of celebration. The Celebration Community Development District, and if I say this wrong, let me know, is a governmental entity. It is a state mandated organization. It does own property. It has the right to levy taxes. And the two boards are responsible for distinctly different things. So tonight, these two boards want to talk with each other about how we're going to move forward and what the plans might look like. And again, this is not to get into specificity. We are not going to talk about everybody's wish lists. We are going to try to find a way to meet together now and meet together in the future for a common set of goals and needs. And would you like to say anything before we call the meeting to order?
Well, first, I think officially.
Do we need to? Okay.
For our side, so.
Yes. Greg Bilak.
Here.
Tom Tucson.
Here.
David Hume.
Here.
Jack McLaughlin.
Here.
We also have council present and our engineer.
Sandra, do you want one?
I don't know if Cassandra's on.
Now, the meeting was noticed on to both boards, to both communities.
Yes, this is an official meeting. It's not a workshop for us.
This is an official meeting for us too. So we have a quorum. We don't need to take roll.
So yeah, from our perspective, and again, I don't want to get into it, I want to defer Dave to the introduction, but I mean, that this is now since I've been on our third joint meeting together, and to have, I think, some of these discussions were just about where we might be able to intersect and work together, or how that out. So I think wishes, wants, and cares. So we are on a path just to kind of level set for about 2 or 3 months ago. We put a couple of fixed height under contract. So the beginning of the meeting tonight, discussion that we had with Don about a month ago at our meeting, having Dick Site do an introduction of who they are and kind of how they fit into this puzzle, the CD side and also potentially the CROA side, to do that presentation that they will explain the intro, and then I think afterwards just give it a really close to a set agenda. My perspective, just like to see everybody's reaction to the presentation and sort of flow from there. Recap some of the dialogue we've had from the last joint meeting and figure out if there's some improvement. Let them speak first,
And then discuss how to proceed from there.
Today, do you want to maybe?
Let's do the call to order and the pledge and all that.
Don, can I ask a question? Is this a meeting or a workshop?
I think we noticed it as a meeting.
Well, it's, the agenda states workshop, joint
Oh, does it?
workshop.
Okay.
Well, the meeting.
Yeah, it can work either.
Okay.
We noticed it, so it's official.
Rise with pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. I guess beforehand, sorry, so we'll pledge allegiance. So maybe from our side, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So, second.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye. We have a motion to adopt the CROA agenda. It's the agenda. It's joint. Nobody?
Yeah.
Okay, second? Sure. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
I've seen.
You've seen. Okay. All right, go ahead.
All right, so we do have owner comments. It's a meeting for us. We do need to entertain all our comments at once. We'll go ahead. If up there, mic's on. If you state your names, address, record, if you any owner comments. Have any online?
See no hands.
Right.
Certainly can.
Right now.
Yeah, certainly can. Okay. All right, Joe. With that, then, Dave, do you want to?
We have. That's on our meeting.
Just for the record, Cassandra Starks is joining.
Perfect. All right.
Real quick introduction. And my name is Dave Hume. I'm with the Celebration CDB, and I think the genesis of where we are today came from last year. I would say a vociferous referendum from the community to engage with a master plan for our community. And as a CDD, we recognize the fact that we have a critical part with that because CDDs are designed in order, as this entity that you rightly described, Don, are able to float bonds that are municipal at a very attractive interest rate to finance capital improvements, which is exactly what we're talking about. And with that, with the CDD's role, we saw us uniquely positioned to make a comprehensive master plan, something as all-encompassing as possible. And with that, because we didn't want to leave anybody else, we don't want it siloed. It wasn't going to be parceled off into ownerships. It's a comprehensive master plan that encompasses the entire community. And this is something I'm very familiar with, like kind of a day job I do also. And the path that I'm most familiar with, that even communities to this day that are similar to what we do here, will have the CDD go out and do a complete planning process so that they have the universe of possibilities available to them, and then base the bonding and the financing on that as a top level thing. So with that, what we did is we went out to an RFP to get a professional planner because it is quite a large undertaking. We went out, it was publicly noticed, public process that we took a few months to do. We got 4 highly qualified bidders that we're all familiar with. They're very familiar with Celebration and selected the Dix Height Group. And I'm going to turn it over to them so they can give you an overview of who they are, what they intend on doing. Oh, and trigger warning, Don. They're going to use the town of Celebration in their nomenclature.
I know, it's okay. Just one quick note. Want to make it clear, this was the CDD hired Dix Height.
Correct.
It is not a CROA.
Great, thank you. Mike, you can hear me all, everybody in the room? Okay, so my name's Chris Height. You can state my address. You. So I'm a Chris Height. I'm a founding partner with Dix Height Plus Partners. We are urban planners and landscape architects, and we have a pretty incredible team today. We're also taking you through what might be considered a kickoff of this process. Dave did a great job of providing some background.
Can I ask folks on online to mute your mics, please?
Sorry, slight click. Okay, so brief agenda. We're going to walk through this, really systematically. I imagine it will take about 30 to 40 minutes to go through the background, familiarity with the firms and the folks on the team, and then the process of the master plan. We're going to close the discussion with a session that we call Heart and Heartburn as it relates to the Parks and Recreation System Master Plan, and I'll explain that when we get to that. It's like a 30-second moment to just kind of share heart and heartburn with regards to thoughts and impressions on the process. So we'll do the introduction, talk through the design, talk about the design team, go through the team organization, talk about our design approach, end up with heart and heart. Introduction. The town of, I can't help but call it the town of Celebration. Okay. As an urban planner, as a longtime landscape architect, interestingly enough, just a short history, there has hardly been a moment in my career when I haven't been involved in the town of Celebration, one aspect or another. Starting out when I was with a very junior landscape architect with PDS&J HOH Associates, literally doing a pastel rendering of downtown core of Celebration that was the size of a couple of cakes. So it's been my honor and pleasure to be a part of the growth of this town, one of many that have worked to create the real place that is Celebration. Which it's an incredible place, that you all live in and are part of. Unbelievable. It's world renowned and modeled. So we're focusing on a park and recreation master plan for an established town. It's very often that a town gets to a crossroads, realize that there might be some gaps, there might be some opportunities, that perhaps the forward-thinking elements of the original planning may not have thought of things that might be necessary for park and recreation in this day and age. There's a lot of incredible components in Celebration, as y'all know, but there probably are some gaps. So we're gonna help y'all walk through that and discover those things. We love this quote, and this can apply to any place. But as you all know, with the legacy of Celebration specifically, it's all related to relationship to public realm, to your neighbor, to the community, to connect. And a fantastic park and recreation system that's well programmed and provides amazing spaces for recreation, social, and enrichment, which in turn will enable your legacy. So your team, everyone's gonna, our folks are gonna have an opportunity to get up and introduce you. But we've, in order to walk through a process like this, you need to have a well-rounded. Okay, so team leaders are Dick Height, myself, Madeline Steigerwald, Hannah Blake, Susan Farmer, Sheba West is also here. So that's your Dick Height team, your KPM Franklin team, engineering and planning, regulatory planning, Michael Holbrook, Allison Williams, and Alec Getz. Your LRK team, we're going to be looking at community centers and the town hall, a firm that y'all are likely familiar with, LRK. Kevin Jones is here. Unfortunately, Mark Jones, as much as he would have liked to be here tonight, is dear to his heart. He recently had some pretty major surgery, so he's at home recovering, and sends all of you his regards. And then we have Connie Chung with HRNA Advisors, and they are our economic advisors, because as Dave mentioned, there are vehicles for funding, but there's also the existing funding and all the economic aspects. So I won't go into that, because Connie will get familiar with that aspect. So I mentioned that I personally have been, involved in the town corporation over the course of my career. Jeff Dix and I established Big Cyclist Partners in 1996. I came from PBS&J HOH, and one of a project that I left when I was at PBS&J HOH was Academy Row, Savannah Square, Meeting House Green. When I got over to Dick Cyclist Partners, one of our first projects was Mirasol. Over the course of time, we've had the honor and opportunity to work on a number of things, as has LRK, as has KPM Franklin. This is a listing. We did all of ours in park, all the public realm, including street names, logos, the story, if any of y'all might be familiar with the story of that neighborhood. And Celebration Memorial Garden, there's a story there. So we're just very familiar with the town of Celebration, and anyway, just a long legacy. We designed Dolby's Park and the falling leaf, the turkey oak leaf falling into reflect the legacy of the turkey oak sandhills that were here before Celebration. So a lot of people in that stories about Celebration. So Dick Cyclist Partners. Interestingly enough, so Dick Cyclist Partners, we have a lot of master planning. We're probably working on 5 actively right now. We've worked on similar communities across the US and in Hawaii. We also work on public park systems and public parks. And then we also happen to have an expertise in transportation, especially micromodal. Those layers, those urban planning layers come together to kind of give us a unique perspective on how master plan communities come together and the governing elements of a master plan community, of which Don mentioned, celebration is one. And then towns. Currently, for example, the town landscape architect for Winter Park, working on parks there. So we walk that intersection of the public and private. Then turn it over to Katie and Franklin and Alex.
My name is Alex Getz. I'm the Vice President of Commercial Engineering for KP Franklin. We are a Osceola County-based civil engineering, landscape, architecture, planning, and surveying firm. The firm was previously Franklin Hart and Reed, that started back in the 90s, 2016, it became Franklin. I've been there since 2016, working on projects, a lot of projects within the parks ecosystem, and several within the celebration as well. Our role in this process is to assist with the regulatory environment when it comes to working on park amenities improvements. We're going to be serving as an advisory role when it comes to the effects of the projects on stormwater, environmental factors, as well with reviewing compliance and things regarding future land use, entitlements, zoning, and some of the previous efforts that these committees have made, making sure that what we're proposing now and whatever the visions come from this process are achievable, and we can help map out the process to get there if there are any constraints. One notable thing is a bridge through a wetland. If that is something that comes along, we could help kind of map that process out and gauge the viability and kind of work through those ideas and help make that reality, at least conceptual.
Okay.
Hey everyone, probably not the LRK face you're expecting to see tonight. I'm Kevin Jones with LRK. We're primarily architects and urban designers. We're actually headquartered in Memphis, but have a presence here in Central Florida, mainly through celebration. In the late 90s, we're hired on to assist the town architect at the time with their high demand projects. And by 2001, we had assumed that role full time. And a few slides ago, as Chris mentioned, saw Park Jones, he been in and around that town architect role for years now. So we're just looking forward to that long history, knowledge, bringing everything up, every bit of that as much as we can. Study our science, but to be part of something like.
Honey.
Hi, everyone. Connie Chung, HMA Advisors. All the team members before me had a very, very long and esteemed history with Celebration, which is not a town. I will say I'm new. Today was my first time really ever being here, and I'm just as a city planner by training, I'm so thrilled to be here. That is not at all what I was supposed to say, so I will go back to the intro. As a firm, we're a real estate, economic development, public policy consulting firm. Our role is really often at the intersection of the public and private sectors, and so like Chris and the rest of the team, a lot of the work that we do is really in the partnership between private entities, public entities, quasi-governmental entities, the people who use places and the governments that have authority over them. But the work we do is really about the creation and the sustaining of vital places where people can thrive, they can raise their families, they can start businesses, have jobs. And so the work that we do is actually really around creating those places, and parks and open space and the economics of parks and open space is kind of a special area that I really love and get to lead within our firm. And so we do a lot of work around understanding the budgeting and the strategy to fund and finance open space investments around the country. I've worked based in Los Angeles. I've worked on projects in Atlanta, Pittsburgh. So I'm really, really psyched and honored to be here in Celebration. So thanks so much, and we'll be here in a little bit.
Thank you, Connie. Yeah, I need to mention that HRNA, nationally renowned area of expert. You might be familiar with the High Line, both in economic aspect of High Line. Also be involved there. Lonandi was a very unique tactical urbanism for the city of Boston. They were actually impetus behind that idea. So just really happy to have Connie and her team here to help people all work through the financial process of what may come out of this planning process. So we are the conduits through which a master plan will emerge. We have a very specific design process that we go through to get there with no preconceived ideas or we don't have a stake in the fight per se. We're in the process, I'd rather say that. All working. But we're here to guide. We're here to get it to fruition and to a workable, feasible plan. The general organizational structure is that as Dick's Height will lead the process, have the team that we've shared with you, they'll work with us all along the way. We are contracted through the CCD and will direct information and the CCDD is our point of contact. That's how the strongest processes work, with a single point of contact. However, and in addition to, there are so many, key organizations and key structures that we know that are so important to the process. So CROA, are sitting here today, of course, the representatives from the CCDD working together. The Master Plan Advisory Group, we had an introduction to about a month and a half ago. Of course, Celebration residents, all facilitated through community engagement that will then inform. This is simply to show the organizational structure, how we'll be walking through the process. So we want to take you all through our approach because we think it's really important that, at this kickoff, y'all really clearly understand how we're going to get from point A to point B. If you read our scope, it's the steps in our process. And the steps in our process are what is our scope and what I'm going to describe to you. And it's linear with a single key component, and I'll get to that in a minute. There's some key words that we keep looking to, legacy, engagement, and then the ultimate vision. The town of Celebration is built on a legacy of community, health, education, technology, communication. I always rely on. So you have a legacy, had an original vision, and the Celebration has lived up to that vision to date. How do we continue to improve and, like I said, that you all love so much. So we'll keep looking back to that legacy as a guide as we go through the process. So we have a design approach at Dig Site that we use to solve any problem. We use this in our own strategic planning. We use it to solve internal problems. However, we also use it for our public and our private clients as we go through the design process. We call it the 6 Ds. It's the dream, discovery, design, document, deliver, with a very key important word, which is discuss, which happens throughout the process, and I'll talk about my background. So I'm going to walk through it. So this is the basic scope outline here, but I'm going to walk you through it in more detail. It's really important to talk about the term discussion, because as we go through each of the processes, which I'll get into a little more detail, there are key points at which we engage with you all, as well as with key stakeholders. Those elements are highlighted here in the future. So in the dream portion, it's when we are establishing the vision that we engage actively and engage in discussion. As we go through this discovery portion, a key part of that is community engagement. As we go through, get into design, we'll do a vision workshop, which includes the community. As we get into document, there'll be a presentation of the strategic master plan. We often throw darts and we modify and adjust, and then it would culminate that portion of the process. So really, really important because we will not get from point A to point B without your all's involvement. We set forth a project schedule, which takes us through about 9 months of the process, but it helps us stay on track. We're coordinated around your meeting schedule. We anticipate that the dream will take about a week as we get started. Discovery, which will have to be the deep dream, frankly, is about a 12-week process. The design portion is built on discovery and is 8 weeks. The documentation of the design, fine-tuning of that is 8, and then a week to and deliver the final document. So the dream. As we think about and listen, this will grow and build. But what we've heard so far is that you all want to set a standard for excellence for parks within celebration, based on a process that's very data-driven. So as we go through discovery, everything that we go through in discovery will provide the foundation from which we can then go into design. We're walking through these things. You have the research, sites evaluation and opportunity analysis, inventory and analysis of facilities, and then of course, into everything. So our approach as we enter into discovery is extremely data-driven. We want you all to be informed so that any decisions that are made are based on facts, are based on the statistics, are based on the survey that's already gone out. And so we'll walk you through that. The data-driven approach will help set parks and open space standards and help you all understand that. The inventory and analysis of existing parks will give you a deeper understanding of how your facilities are currently being used. We'll determine level of service, which is a way of understanding how celebration, I keep reminding how
It's branded.
but it was branding, but it was real.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
almost.
Almost.
Great brand.
Yeah.
So
So
branding's great if it sticks.
I think it's sticking.
Yeah, it's sticking.
So anyway, we use something called You'll Hear It. Probably time and time again, you'll be, oh yeah, I know what level of service is. But it's basically a series of metrics that we use to analyze and evaluate where the gaps are. Basically, we use a number of different metrics. And then, of course, strategic planning and budget and analysis, and then we design the plan with the data. You all will understand the data as well as, all right, as we take the process.
Can you expand a little bit, sorry, just on the level of service benchmark? So you get a little bit. Measures based on what standards.
Give me a minute, I mean,
I'm sorry, okay.
yeah, and, I appreciate,
Already.
You my question.
I know, I appreciate the interruption, and, I'm gonna get there in just a minute, okay. So I'm gonna turn it over to Allison, with Kathy and Franklin. She's gonna talk a little bit about the planning analysis portion and regulatory.
Hi, Allison Williams with KPM Franklin. So as my engineering counterpart, Alex, mentioned earlier, our role in this process will be to ensure and evaluate planning from a land use standpoint. What that means is we'll be reviewing the regulatory compliance as it relates to the comprehensive plan and land development regulations of Osceola County, and to ensure compliance with parks and recreation facilities and ensure that we're open space standards, and checking that against water management district and stormwater compliance. Going to be reviewing code research, GIS analysis, permit history, and data gathering. So we're going to be using all of this to complement our urban designers and working with engineering to create some design charts for you.
There's also been, prior plans. We've already gathered a lot of that information, and we've already interviewed a lot of that, which, has happened previously, so I mentioned that, already our files are, getting with past plans. So level of service. It's great, right? That we-
I'm gonna ask a smart question.
No, it's great. So I mentioned that there's different ways to analyze level of service. So there's facility level of service, so the quantity and diversity of facilities provided for a population. Now there's national standards. And there's a couple of different entities that set these national standards, and it's actually spelled out in our scope what those are. So we'll measure how y'all are set up currently against those national standards, as well as against other communities in the region, so you kind of know how you're stacking up, okay? As we analyze the gaps, that's gonna help you all say, you know what, we realize we have this gap, but we want to take care of that, we wanna do that. All of that data is gonna help you. Access level of service. So that's basically measured in distance and travel time to different facility types. Now, the town of Celebration was founded and designed based on the fundamentals of new urbanism, with the idea that it's a 5-minute walk to any given node or core. Those ideals remain true today as Island Village is being developed out. So you can walk out of your, want to get away from the mic, you can walk out of your door, whether you're, just born to perhaps over 100 years old, and perhaps you can go 5 minutes and get to an incredible open space or trail or park. So that's access level of service. Acreage level of service is the amount of acreage based on population that is being provided parks. That has been analyzed by entities such as the Trust for Public Land. We have an incredible document that provides level of service comparisons across the nation. And that data is updated very frequently. And then community needs. What is our surveys? What messages are we getting through community engagement? What do the demographics say? What isn't here that you really want? Like that comes out of our community. So those are the 4 primary area, the level of service analysis. Awesome. So we're also going to look at comparable communities that will bounce off of our the CCDD and get buy-in. I'll give you a little example. So right now, y'all are sitting at about, 14,000 residents. Projected perhaps 20,000 on build out. So the city of Winter Park is 29,000 within the city limits. Y'all aren't far off from that. Just as a almost apples to apples comparison. So you can look at a park system. Somebody say something? Okay. So we'll compare both a few jurisdictions that are like in size and perhaps might be cities that you admire. And we'll also look at some other master plan communities. So you kind of understand where you're sitting in that realm. We'll look at regional parks and proximity, community parks, neighborhood parks, and parks. We'll go through site evaluation and inventory and analysis. We actually tested this today. So we spent the day today, first of all, sharing our love for Celebration with Connie. And then we tested our level of service survey on Lakeside Park, which for an urban planner, it includes Lakeside Park, but it also includes that stretch to the end of Main Street as kind of a linear connection, right? It's a whole. We looked at Lakeside Park specifically, but also kept in mind that linear. So we'll look at these and those will be illustrated so that you'll understand the positive and challenging aspects of your facilities. A summary document might be mapped like this with additional programming, existing facilities, acreage, square footage, connections, etc. As well as the documented analysis that I see. We're also going to do an analysis of Celebration Town Hall and other communities on Kevin Street.
I can just talk to me. I think everybody can hear me.
Can you just go to the mic? Just
Oh, do I need to?
Yes, just so.
Yeah.
Hello, is that? Yeah, so we're going to, similar to the open spaces and those types of amenities, we're gonna take a deeper dive into town hall and other structures. Not so much from a architecture, aesthetic, or structural standpoint, but more from a programming standpoint, functional spaces, how they're programmed, how they're used throughout the and looking at those elements of the buildings. And then after that, we're going to then do another similar exercise to open spaces and get comparable, right, for other community centers around the region. So comparisons there.
That's so that you'll know, and have a basis for what the possibility. So we're going to work alongside y'all relative to community engagement. There's already been a public survey. We had the opportunity to review it before it went out to the community. We're suggesting a neighborhood meeting by which we meet with each of the 11 neighborhoods and kind of get back there. We're suggesting a couple of branded pop-ups so folks at large know that this process is going on and so that there's additional access to the process. We'll provide social media graphics so that the website, which y'all do an amazing job of facilitating, is updated as we go through the process. And then we're suggesting a phone tree whereby our team will contact key folks. Could be each of you, could be the MPHE individually, and then others, folks that are running parks programs, et cetera, and get more detailed how things are operating. We'll then encapsulate this in a summary document and share this with you all, so that you can review it, understand all the information. This is going to provide the basis for the next stage, which is the part that we really get into, which is design. So I'm going to walk you through the design process, revision workshop, revisioning of major components, and what that might look like, preliminary framework plan, strategy. Okay, so celebration sits uniquely within the park movement timeline. You are a piece of history as it relates to planning movements. Very much embedded in the towning, the urban planning movement. I mentioned that before. Concept of the walkable city. That legacy goes back to the Green City movement as well as the City Beautiful movement. Coral Gables is an example of a community that was designed as a master plan community back in the day by a developer that created this incredible place. It's like foundation. City of Winter Park is the exact same thing. I just visited Marymount and just outside of Cincinnati, which was done right during the time of World War, just post World War I. There's a lot of different examples across the U.S. and beyond that kind of showcase this movement. And it's really kind of centering a design of towns around green spaces and natural environment. So City Beautiful movement, then we had suburbanization and sprawl. We gained understanding of urban natural areas and the importance of those systems with cities. There was a major park systems revival in the 70s to the late 80s, and then the planning movement. So I just like to keep on reminding you all that, you know, kind of where celebration is situated in planning. We think it's really important. As we get done with all of the discovery, we're going to have a vision workshop here on site over a couple of days, and we'll have a nice agenda, very organized, where you really will watch the plan take shape and form with your feedback and input in situ. So we'll have design sessions. We'll go over results of discovery. We'll provide visioning for major system components. We will have looked at what we're understanding are opportunity parcels. We may identify opportunities that you can't even think of yet. We'll identify the gaps in facilities and program, and we'll have strategy discussions, and we'll be drawn. This will be a design session. So y'all will see this coming together. Within that process, we'll develop a framework plan that, especially with the elements and the gaps, will create a park hierarchy. There might be opportunities for improvements within your existing facilities. So we'll talk about that. If there are gaps in connectivity with that, we'll diagram the system. Then we'll come up with components plans, and so this basically develops a framework. It's very diagrammatic what I'm showing you. It's just I'm trying to give you a picture of what we'll be doing. We'll be visioning, you know, and we identify parks in categories from regional to community, neighborhood to parkette. Y'all are familiar with the parkettes. They're throughout celebration. You're familiar with the neighborhood park. We have some nice ones. You also have some facilities that could be considered community parks. And then a regional park, you could potentially consider that the golf course is a regional park and amenity. However, the town of Celebration doesn't necessarily really have a large-scale regional park. Could be a gap, could be an opportunity. We need to discover that. As we go through the process, you'll hear words like park anchors. You'll hear that, you know, great park spaces. Typically, there's 10 reasons to go to a great park. And if there's 10 reasons to go to a great park, they become vibrant, eyes on the street, and beloved places. You'll hear words like that as we we'll diagram based on our data-driven process reasons to tie up with the park. It might be mobility and exercise, which came out of the survey. It might be spaces and program that came out of our analysis. It may be desire for more gathering and picnic. This is just an example, but this gives you an idea of what the process will be. Okay, now we've got the framework plan. We kind of know where the pieces and parts want to go. We've identified some opportunities. We know the gaps. We know what's missing. We also, because of our past experience and a lot of the level of service that I've described, we know how big things need. So we'll start doing fit studies on some of the key parcels that we identify as opportunities. We'll do functional diagrams, which are based on real sizes. They're not going to be final designs, but they're quick studies that give us an idea of how the program might fit. And then that gives the engineers and the planners something to analyze and make sure we're hitting our targets. And it also gives a basis for the economists to come up with a budget and functional plan. So based on all of that, we will then fine tune it and document everything. Again, talking with you all along the way, and we'll develop this master. So the strategic master plan will frameworks. It'll include HRNA's aspect of operating budget and revenue strategies. It will also include phasing and so you'll know, Bobby, hopefully that you're rowing the same direction together, because everyone's working together. And at the end, we'll understand where we're going, what the phasing looks like, and what the budget looks like based on reality. I'm going to turn it over to Connie so she can dive a little bit into operating budget strategy.
That Dix had created these slides, which are much more beautiful than what I would have made as the numbers person here. So all of the kind of plan needs to also be long-term, operationally and financially sustainable. And I'm really excited that we're here at this moment because at the beginning is when you want to try to figure out how to make the plan sustainable, not kind of after the fact, after you dreamed up the biggest dreams. And all of that is not to say that we're here to, that HRNA is here to sort of pare back and water down what people want, but it's really to understand if we have aspirations, how we can afford them, pay for them, and what it means operationally for the staff who maintains it or the operating budget. So that's all introduction to say, you know, the two things that we're going to be working on are first a sort of high level financial structure that will be the budget of long term, understanding what it will cost to maintain. You know, first we'll understand what it takes to maintain today, where there are gaps in terms of service that could be amplified, improved on, whatever it may be. We'll estimate what that long term is. And then we'll also estimate what the long term is in terms of improvements, additions, et cetera, to the system. And alongside those costs, we will look at all the different revenue sources that we can draw on to pay for the ongoing operations and maintenance. And that will give us a sense of how to ensure that that's sustainable in the long term. And I think that'll also be a really important thing for the entire community to really weigh in on in terms of priorities, because we pay for the things that we prioritize, right? And we want to understand what those are from you. We also want to understand the design and engineering parameters for that, and of course, the regulatory.
And then the strategic master plan will guide implementation based on kind of share, based on the plan. We'll set up an implementation, that whether it's current parking, transformative projects, system-wide updates, or complete projects that might. Then we'll button it up and deliver probably a final presentation, share we'll, really strategically talk about next steps and tourism. All right, so as a part of the conversation today, as Don mentioned, trying to be working together, right? Going to work together. I wanted to take maybe the next set of posts for each of you to share your hard and heartburn. I know you all have it, right? Hard
You're
and
really
heartburn.
optimistic.
Yeah, so it's like a game, okay? Think of it like a game. It's a short process. It actually helps us start to establish your dream. Okay? So I think it needs to come from your heart. I like to say the heart first. And if we have time, we'll have our team members do it as well. And if there's any MPAG members in the audience, are there any?
Listen online.
If they're okay, if it's allowed, I don't know. Perhaps they can also share heart and heartburn. I'll start. Okay, and this is from my heart. I did not previously. So my heart is to build on Celebration's legacy of an amazing place and to excellence that you already got the bones of in your heart system. Okay. My heartburn is if we can't get you all working together and all. So that's mine. That's an example of heart and heart, right? Find it, just go around the table. Is that okay?
Sure.
And is it okay?
Start with one.
Let's start with Lauren. I think let's start with Lauren. Let's just go around.
Parts, there's a expand on over heartburn, getting every
Jared,
I would say my heart is the same. Um, Improving and expanding our facility environment. My heartburn is, I'm confused. It's based on your presentation. I feel that CDD hired Dick's Hype to survey things that they don't own and operate. So that is confusing where CROA fits in based on my.
we might come back to that later. I don't know, but thank you. That's awesome.
My heart is just all the potential that we have to build new amenities. We have like a lot of potential to do that and a lot of data thoughts on how to do that. So I'm really excited about that. My heartburn would be a little bit of like what Jared said with the CROA piece of it. We have certain things that we have to adhere to with our bylaws from homeowners. So before I would feel like comfortable committing to anything, I would want to hear from them and do like a vote to see if like any of this is possible go down this path.
Celia.
Butler. Said. Send answer. Survey. Barry.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, that Dick's Hype.
Survey. You got fully attacked. My heartburn.
Grant? One on there right now. Thanks, Mary. It's great. Eric?
So my heart and heartburn are somewhat similar. My heart is that when people do find out about celebration, it is considered one of the world-class communities. Want to do that. However, in a lot of respects, we're a world-class community. And we have not kept up to date with that. We're sitting in an example of it right now. And my challenge is that we've had plans similar to this before, and we haven't had action on them. And so there's been a lot of either analysis paralysis with it, or we get to the end and we see the big price tag, and it's challenging. I'm hopeful that with a partnership with the CDD, there's other funding options that are available to us that are not available to the HOA side. But I just want to make sure that we can take action no matter what we do from this rather than have another plan.
Thank you so much, Eric. Andrew?
Yeah, so my heart would be that, looking at the civic quarter, that turns into some type of, community park or regional park that is best in class in Osceola and even in Florida, that something really fantastic with that space and CCDB and CROA own land there, so it's truly between us to figure out what that plan looks like. Another heart would be the Stetson building. That's something that one of our entities should have, but unfortunately the price has never been there. So something longer term that, does that become the civic buildings that we share offices with, something of that nature, as well as, improve parking downtown. And then I guess the heartburn is you want quality things, you gotta write a check for it. So how are we gonna pay for it? How are we gonna finance it, et cetera? One nice thing, but as we've seen on CROA, right, we kept our dues flat for so many years from 2010 to 2015, that it's fall apart. So as we look forward to enhance and improve celebration, what does that cost us?
Thank you, Andrew. Awesome.
Arts, we have no arts, performing arts, theater, any kind of arts facilities. We are rich in pools. We have more pools. I've looked at the numbers. We have more pools than almost any community our size in the world. We have pools. We even have a decent number of tennis courts, but I want performing arts facilities. My heartburn dovetails right off of Andrew. I've looked at the wish list various times. This is not the first time we've done a master plan. The wish lists run into the tens of billions of dollars. And my concern is that we will get stubborn as a board, this one, and not want to take advantage of other opportunities to get the money necessary, because while we may have 30 million in once, we'll be lucky to pull out 3 million in cash. So we need help. That's why we're meeting with the CDD, I think. She's attending in her own personal capacity as a citizen, but Peggy Chowdhury is here, who's our county commissioner. And they occasionally have some, we need to find the money where we can get the money and make some things happen. And so everybody's money. We haven't done anything. Let's do something. And if it takes CDD paying your bill to make that happen, hallelujah.
Okay, hey, Charles,
It'll get me.
we can.
Oh, sorry, I might be rough one, so you hear some background. Like, no, I mean, I don't know what folks said the heart. I think my heart, honestly, is really saying that we have a master plan. That's really meaningful, I think, to the resident. And really, our mission on the CROA side, our mission is to protect, preserve, and enhance stormwater. And this, what better way is there to do it than to do this? So I think everything that is said really aligns with that statement. I think that heartburn for me, there are a couple of things. Number one, the management left. I think we as CROA are the home association, and not to invoke the playground. But, you know, I worry about our bandwidth, our capacity, our knowledge, in biting off more than we can chew from the CROA side. And then I think too, I think we're going to get into a natural territorial battle, of CROA versus CDB. And I just don't think that's going to be productive for anyone.
Thank you, Charles. That's what this is all about, laying out heart and heartburns. I appreciate you being, everyone being so. Sorry, my eyes are such, I can't quite see your.
He's the lawyer.
I'm the lawyer, I'm not here.
He doesn't have a heart.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't- Oh, maybe a lot of heartburn. I don't know.
Jeffrey's the next one.
I can see Jeffrey. Hey, Jeffrey.
So Art would be building something that the entire community will use. And, heartburn.
Awesome. Hey, Cassandra.
Hi, my heart is making celebrations best it can. I know it's old, so it won't, you know, I feel like there's some things we may not be able to do, like Lake Mill, you know, other places like that are newer. But, I think Dick's Height is a great company to partner with to come up with a master plan. However, my concern, funding, and I thought this should be something CROA should be in charge of. They should hire Dick's Height.
And just so are you on?
I'm
CCTV?
CCTV.
You're on CCTV.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we have a good understanding.
But
This would be HOAs.
So Jeffrey is CROA?
yeah.
Okay, and Cassandra's, CCTV.
Yeah, it's CROA.
All right, awesome, thank you, Cassandra. Correct.
So I'm gonna go backwards, because I like ending on a positive note, sometimes I think of positive. Number one is this town is 30 years of rice bowls inside. We have,
Of rice,
so everybody's got their rice bowl, everybody's got their silo. CROA has their things, CBP's got
Okay.
their things,
County has their.
county has their things, Canoa has their things.
Mhm.
The challenge organizationally, we see that it trickles down to amenities and it permeates how we operate. There's this constant, this is ours and this is ours, and legally there's gonna be some of that. But as a community, as a member of the resident of the community wants to look out and say, why can't I have a nice this, why can't I have that, why can't I have this? And at the end of the day, it's our responsibility as boards to figure out as much as is responsible and happen to break through some of those silos. How can we actually affect the change that needs to happen? And arm wrestle it. This will be the beginning of, I'm sure, several tense conversations to figure out how this happens. And it's good. I mean, this is part of it. There's been organizational disconnects over the years. And I will say from our side, we've had boards that just haven't wanted to engage in this. And I don't say that negatively or positively, it's just been the vision of hired us on the CP side of maintaining sidewalks and ponds. Just that. This board, I think, has expressed a different desire. Want to get realize that CROA has a lot of strengths in the assets that they own, history of managing these things. We've got strengths, I think, in my mind, important ones to go. So I think we can combine those two things. And that has been what I've seen as the gap is why we haven't been able to. Because continue to ask what do we find when we've done surveys and surveys largely consistent. Haven't ever gotten it. That's a lot of part of what your presentation brings is how do I start taking that all the way to the architectural design? So the county where we need to start getting permitting, all that other stuff that needs to happen rather than saying here are the top 10 things, Don's list of $5 million of stuff that's exciting. It becomes an executable. Haven't happened. So my bridge from the heartburn to the heart is our two boards have to trust each other. And I don't say that like, and I know there's stress between the two, and I hear it is are you assessing CROA's town hall? See reactions from your board. Why are you putting our town? It is an asset of the community that if we're going to do a holistic, true, top-down, what does the community, there needs to be a holistic assessment of what's out there. That's not to say that CDP is gonna take over town hall or CROA is gonna do this. It was a holistic view of what is, how, where do we go in order to get there. In order to have that discussion, you've got to do that trust and bridge and heart. The heart piece I think all 12 of us on the boards here, and staff as well, don't want to get to the same place. You're hearing the same thing. We all recognize we're hearing the same message. Got something, we got some nice thing, got some not so nice thing, that's this thing. We really want to be able to move this forward. As a resident, I've watched this for 12 years where it's been just such a slow pace because there hasn't been, in my mind, I think it's all from our side of the state, to be willing to engage and to come in and figure out, hey, to have that hard conversation, throw it and figure out, rather than let you guys hang out on your own and figure out funding. We need to step into the fray and figure out how we. You know, we've got an engaged community, and I think that's a big part of our business. Not shy about speaking about what and I think we've got the end state we're hearing here is we want to develop. We're all looking over the horizon and seeing the same endpoint. It's how we're getting to that end. That there's a lot of question marks, and a lot of so that's a good challenge for us to have, but it's a challenge.
Hey, Tom.
So HART has always been for residents, especially the resident requests. We talked about master plan that started a year ago. Master plan was, it's been almost 20 years. The CROA and CCD went through this once before when there was nothing on the civic corridor, it was just free land. The Catholic Church was empty land that was given to CROA for free, and CROA turned down that entire piece of land. There's a lot of different pieces, parts, and they tried to get together at one point, and it didn't work. I think initially both boards had courage, and then fractions started happening. And so we're at what's left of empty spots in Celebration right now. And that's my heartburn, because this is it. I mean, you know, if we're just gonna go our separate ways, it's the residents that will end up with the heartburn. Because it just won't get built. And then we point fingers and say this and that. It won't matter. The reality is the residents end up, right? And people move away. So that I think is where my heartburn is, that we have a choice to have that courage to do this. And when we talk about CROA land, CROA facilities, CC land, CC facilities, I think we're missing the point. It really resonates. The other ones are paying the fees, right? The other ones paying the taxes and all that. It all belongs to them. So I think that really is the important piece. Whether it's here or there, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it gets built and residents use this.
Thanks, Chris. All great stuff so far. I'll add that I think that we have an opportunity now through some in-depth and systemic planning to get to a point where we have a master plan that we're all proud of. And the only way that we'll get to that is through the abundance of resources that we have in the community. But also the time and effort that we are able to do to put forward this to get buy-in from all of the stakeholders. Because if we have that master plan that is comprehensive, that encompasses very thorough research and gets to where we get 100% of community engagement. You know, not just 10%, not 20%, but if there's 12,000 people here, we want 12,000 data points. So that everybody can say and point to it that they had a buy-in, so they got skin in it. And if we get to that point, the heartburn part of this is to be able to communicate it effectively. Because if we're not, we're never going to go get over that cost component. If you can't communicate that this is a master plan that we need to perform over a given period of time, then we're back to square one. So if the communication, not only internally, but externally, to make sure it's proactive and over the top so that everybody understands what's going on and there's no back room, everything's out in the open, with that communication strategy. If we don't do that right, that's where we'll fail.
Yeah,
All right, 25 years ago, I came to Celebration from a fairly well-planned community that had lots of parks, lots of recreation facilities. My first thought when I came to Celebration is, where's the ball fields? Where's the things that kids can do? It's not here. I waited as a member of the CROA board for 8.5 years and other things that something's going to happen. We're going to be able to build something. I actually built a capital improvement fund that helped us build the dog park and my property out there in the civic quarter. I had a vision. I said, we need to do something for Debbie McDonald. They remember this a couple years ago. We went down to Solovita and we looked at the facilities that they had down there, and it was sponsored by the CBD. They're just amazing facilities, buildings and stuff like that. And I recently talked to somebody from Solovita and I said, why didn't you move up to Celebration? He said, we had the opportunity, but we decided, let's go down to Solovita. There's more activities, there's more things to do. And we failed. I mean, 25 years, we have done nothing to improve our community. Realizing that CDD had the ability to get funds to make this all happen, and it happened in a quick time, that's important. That's where I want to be. I don't want to see a 5, 10, 15-year plan, because if we go to slow pace, it just costs more and more to do, get further and further behind.
yeah.
I think the heart is obviously celebration and making sure everybody's on the same page to accomplish the same end goal. The second part, the heartburn, is getting everyone to agree.
Although my board thinks that lawyers have no heart.
That was Brett.
I don't.
That was not me.
That was right. I think that the heart kind of goes towards what you all say, you know, but looking at textbooks, since I graduated a long time ago, but law textbooks include in community development celebration as a master plan follow with a CDD, with an HOA. And it's interesting, you know, to see that in a book and say, wow, I'm part of it. But the next chapter isn't written in the book. It's what happens when those communities age, because they've all been built after celebration. So the heart is like, what a cool opportunity to be the lead and how do you take this master plan. It all got started after celebration, and what's the next lifetime? So that's sort of the hard part. The heartburn is, you know, I represent government, so taking tax exempt bonds and the public-private partnership and all the twists and thinking of ways that it all work. It can work, and you know, I keep thinking, gosh, when we're done, it's going to be so cool to be able to like talk about it, but it will be a little bit of a process. Thanks. That's fantastic. That's a fantastic.
If you guys, like you guys are okay.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I was thinking it would be, if y'all are okay with it, the option to get the
Anything from that
Up here
like
for-
to speak.
heart and heartburn.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me? This is Joe Zelli.
Hey, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
I'm sorry, I'm traveling and I'm remote. So my heart is the fact that, you know, there's dozens of people on this call in the room that care greatly about celebration and our future, and they're all very well intentioned. My heartburn, which has been touched upon, or what hasn't been touched upon, is kind of, I think, the elephant in the room, which is, it all sounds good, but 6 months from now, CROA is going to say, here's our strategic plan, and 9 months from now, CBD is going to say, here's our strategic plan. And as a resident, I would sit back and look and say, I'm confused. Why are there 2 plans? That's it for me.
Thanks, Joe.
Anyone else from MPAC? Yeah, you weren't invited.
State your name and address, please.
For Driver Street. Just to reiterate part of what Jack was saying, I think it's 10 years ago we went through this. I think we all know, with all the incredible leaders we have, we're not being on any compromise. We just have to look to compromise, work together. Greg, Don, the boards sit down together and just try something. You know, I think anything we try would be great, but if we wait till we all agree on something, it will never happen. Even though we're older, we're probably moving and eventually or whatever, I would like to see it for the other, I'd like to see something. Right? And, I think between the county and the city and the, if we compromise and set egos aside, I think that's.
Does the CBD have a water chilled air conditioner?
Cliff might have next.
Oh, good, all right.
Hello, I'm Krista Thompson, 1105 Tapestry. I'm also a master mechanic. I just want to say with the heart, I love celebration. I've lived in 15 different states and I'm fine with your celebration. So it's a great community and I really just want to see it. As for the hard part, so Dix Height is going to do everything master planning is supposed to do. And they're going to be able to do it better because they don't have their day job. It is their day job. Plus, they see CBD actually fund it. CROA never knew. So unless we can actually figure out a way for us all to work together and master planning for bread, its height or whatever, really master planning on the CROA side just, I don't like to part of something.
Now, I actually would love to comment on that. I really would love to comment on that because of the conversations I've had with Greg in various capacities and coffee together and talk about. My understanding, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that Dix Height is not here to replace MPEG.
So let me maybe take 3 minutes because I know there's a lot of confusion both here and even. So
Yeah, I just want to get this.
Minute and a half.
Minute and a half, we'll talk quick. So from the the CDB side, again, we had this conversation 9 or 10 months ago in this workshop, and we threw it out there. And I know, Jared, you had mentioned about, this was where you guys were kind of conceptualizing the impact. And the takeaway from that was CROA is going to take that and run that process. In parallel, we've also been looking at the same thing because we're, again, guys, the thing we have to hit on is we've all got the same decisions. At the end of the day, we're all representing ourselves. We looked at it a little bit differently than doing it with a resident-driven process, do it with a company-driven process, and there's benefits to both. But where we ended up, and I know Charles was in, I think, the conversation that happened, and I was confused as well when we first voted on this dialogue about why we bring on this site. And it was interesting, and I don't know if Alec Ross is still on. I know he was at actually, and I think I don't want to represent him, say it himself, but I think he echoed some of what Krista said of as residents with day jobs, there's only so far they so particularly it's a time issue, it's a skill set issue, it's everything else. The value, and I've said this before when we voted on bringing them on, because it's not free. I mean, this is
real cost, very expensive.
The value I see from immediately within the process for it is working on what data you guys have already discussed, survey you've already put out, whether or not Dix Height chooses to say, hey, this survey lined out these things and didn't quite answer some of these questions. Does that become a feeder into the rest of their process? Because there are things that they're talking about that I have not heard from as far as getting down to some of the actual design considerations. Okay, what happens when we have this list of things, rack and stack those? How do we actually get that? Where I said this for the meetings, and I welcome anybody forward. I see impact is critical into that because you have members of that. So what the dialogue has been, whether it's pickleball, whether it's soccer, playground, whatever, they have heard that dialogue and help inform a company who, while they have a lot of experience here at Celebration, is not fresh in Celebration. They have not been here to stuff.
And that's the question. Aren't they acting more as a facilitator of the data that's coming from the community through impact?
So my response to that is going to be, I think that's part of what the conversation we had in our board meeting, and it did not have your entire board, but it did have your liaison, was, hey, if we go forward, and so I agree with they pissed me over about two. It needs to be a holistic thing. You can't just look at what are the parcels that see assets and then, because we don't know much, not much of it, not a lot. It needs to be that holistic thing. Once I bought in to Dave's insistence on that, like it was, then it becomes, okay, where, how do we draw that out and how do they point the process? I think the buy-in you guys needs to be, and I heard it from our discussion was, if we can intertwine and tag in that process, I think it's gonna be kind of fluid. I think the immediate target comes to surveys. That's the very discernible thing to see. Is the survey data you guys have got back, then informs some of the discussion. Where that goes from there and the rest of the steps, I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure.
But we've had these discussions already as part of the preparation for this. So Chris, if you want to briefly go over, you've been to the MPAG meetings and you've seen their progress so far. And you are very aware of their background and their resources and their availability. So have you already kind of thought this through?
I mean, I think there's a couple of ways to approach it. First of all, I was really impressed with the folks on Impact. Passionate, super smart, very knowledgeable. They're the ideal people to walk alongside us, as I think best role would be the technical advisory to the master plan process. In the best community-based master plans we have, and just like that is at every key meeting and is providing feedback as we go through the process, because they are really interested in it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have volunteered. Advisory group. That would be an incredible resource, and likely the foundation and basis for the success of the process. That's what I would suggest. I think that would be it. I'm just making. Yeah.
Yeah, there was the impact member. Alec, go ahead.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Thanks for the time. I don't know that I can say anything that others haven't already. I think if I were going to follow the heartburn, Krista said it, we're all here with us, and we've got an opportune time to make a difference and make an impact. So I'm excited about what we have in front of us and what we can do. The heartburn, there is too much talent and many resources in this town for these two groups not to work together. So it is so critical that we put everything aside, for that baggage might be, go forward. Have to go forward, put it aside, let's move. I love the note from Chris. We would love to be the technical experts and weigh in and sit side by side in the big site. So we just got to go forward. We're not going to make that happen without both of these groups side by side.
Thank you so much. Keith, do you want to chime in quickly? Keith?
Maybe I'm mute.
Keith Thompson.
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Keith Thompson, 1201 Celebration Avenue. Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. We're looking forward. It's continuous improvement. The idea of different groups working together is great. This one does seem, however, that it's preconceived and already been decided, given that we've got a group essentially kind of handling the meeting and everything else. I mean, let's be honest, we all pay for, whoever pays for this, we pay for it. The question then becomes, how do we pay and what that implication is in terms of access, etc. for that. So I just want to make sure that that's there, because just because we have a plan doesn't mean we have to do it all tomorrow. We have a plan of what we're going to do over a period of time that has budgets and timelines to it. So just wanted to make that point.
Thank you, Keith. Appreciate it.
All right. So I think, one more.
If you don't mind.
No, come up here.
Question.
Gary Hudspeth, 1471 Resident Street. I was most impressed by, you're going to come up with a
dollar amount for the initial cost of this project. Even more important, I think, I saw in your presentation that you're presenting an annual operation and maintenance cost, which is really important to look ahead. I'd like to task you with one more thing to do. Translate that into staffing, manpower. Now, I realize most communities have an internal staff and projects you worked on, but they also outsource a number of things. So here's my concept for making that determination. If you haven't done it before, it would really help us because we're not good at figuring out what it takes to operate and maintain these kind of facilities. We have this kind of back and forth all day long with management. So you have access to all the projects you've done in the past and recently, and you're completing projects now. So talk to them about how are you manning, staffing, your maintenance and operations. Get a ballpark for every facility that you're going to show us that is an example of what we're going to do. And then tell us what that organization is doing. It may be wildly disparate depending on their costs, their facilities, what they're doing. They don't think of everything either, but it will help us to figure out when the presentation is done and we're seeing these buildings and these parks, whether it be hardscape or softscape, it'll give us an idea of what it's going to take in staffing and manpower to do over and above just a simple cost. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Now, I think unless Dick Hyde has more,
I think we've come to
then we
the
should
close.
probably move on to the board comment section of our agenda so that the board has an opportunity to comment on what we've been talking about, where we might go from here. That makes sense? That work for you?
Yes.
So Jack, why don't we start with you?
Caught me off guard there. All right.
I try to do that.
Yeah. I think that you need to understand that we can provide the finances. I don't want to run the facilities. Okay, but we have the mechanism within our capabilities of building all these things for you. Okay, so to me, that's our best thing that we can do for you guys.
Yeah, but I'll be fast to say that I've been working extensively with Dick Site for years now at this point, and we'll continue to do that. And in that regard, we need to ensure that they are insulated. And so what our current guidance is that they'll just get one direction, right? They're not going to get, they're only going to answer to one person. So we want to make sure we continue that conduit so they don't get any mixed messaging. In that regard, as we move forward with them, that might take several people, right, as things start ramping up. So we have been, and I don't know if I'm letting the cat out of the bag on this one either, but also evaluating the possibility of bringing on a separate manager to do that process as things get more and more involved. And so that would be a separate contract with the CED as a project manager to help keep Dick's Height engaged, answer their questions, help coordinate them with the impact, answer questions from any of the board members or community in general. So a lot of this is still undefined. And when we say we're going to do community engagement and when we're going to do a workshop, that might be iterative. We might do a survey, then come back and learn something we didn't know before and have to do another survey. We might have to bring in a focus group and then realize, well, we need a different focus group because they're bringing up a good point. So we're going to have to engage with a different one. We might have a workshop and then come back and say, well, we need a different workshop with a different skill set in order to answer some questions. So there's a lot of unknowns at this point. So at this point, we can't say exactly how much this is going to cost. We don't even really know how long it's going to take because that's really dependent on us. How often we go, let's go in this direction. Or, all right, we've got enough, let's move forward. So I'm committed to making sure that we facilitate that process as quickly as possible.
Go ahead.
Okay.
No, you can go ahead.
The one thing that I heard today that I think is very important is if CROA or the CCTV goes forward with financing, kind of information they'll provide on budgeting and long-term planning and estimated costs and all will be invaluable to go to banks to offer bonds. A lot of background that folks are going to all up front in the deciding what you're gonna do part. It would make it a lot easier, a lot less costly for them to actually do projects and see finance.
You know, when we first started, I want to take as long as Greg can. I just, you know, when we first started this, I think everybody was, it's a big project. It's a big challenge. I'm still nervous because there's a lot on the line. There's, you know, this thing isn't going to be $1 million, $2 million. It's going to be a lot of money. But I see all your.
Yeah.
But the reality is that if we don't try, we'll never know. And yeah, we're not all going to see eye to eye. It's going to be impossible. I'm not going to see eye to eye with you. You know, internally, their own boards are not going to see eye to eye. And it's because I know what you drive. I know where you live.
But you still can't reach that.
No, but I've got a comment. But the thing is that I think we just have to be cautious, but move forward. We're gonna have a lot of questions. We're gonna have a lot of doubts. Someone's gonna say something we don't like, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, we need to move this forward, see where it takes us. You know, at the end of the day, we might all come together and go, guys, if we all throw up our hands, it's not gonna work. All right, we're all in agreement on it. But if there is a chance, we should really take it.
Almost as it's good as sand.
Yeah.
All right, well, I just want to work together. You know, we may not all agree, but I won't hold the process up. You know, it would be great to see what the master plan would look like. You know, I have questions too. Do the residents want to pay for it? Whether, you know, we have to repay, you know, the debt that we're borrowing. So, you know, I'm just willing to see how it works out. I'll work with everyone.
All right.
I mean,
Time.
Time.
Like, put them on.
no, and it'll be a quick timer because I don't have much, I mean, I said a lot of the stuff that I was gonna say at the last meeting here. I'm more interested, I think, and I don't wanna take away the opportunity out here. But I really wanna have a dialogue. I mean, you guys see the path that we're on. They're saying this is, I think, a 6 to 9 month estimated timeline. At the end of that, you've seen the delivery. There are things you guys have you've thrown this on the table. Discussion about civic, discussion about land is a big piece. So I realize in respect to I mean, your view, and I think you guys are ready to commit to make it. But our process is moving along, and I want to hear from you guys. What's the level of interest? What's resonating? What's not resonating? Where do we go from? And I think, you know, the path for us, I don't want to say it's well defined, it's not it, but I'm relying on this first row of folks. They're going to find one. Trying to figure out how's that playing. So,
And that was a perfect segue to talk to CROA people and see what they think, like Charles.
Hi, okay, can everyone hear me a little better now?
Yeah, we can hear you, Charles.
Okay, perfect. All right, so to answer your question, and I'll give my perspective. I'm all in on this partnership, quite frankly, and you know, I want to go back to my comments in the Hartford section. I think the reality is Celebration Residential Owners Association is an HOA. Celebration Community Development District, the development district, right? You have development even in your name. So, you know, as I look at what our goals are in the mission, we have to get good at governance. We have to get good with ARC. We have to manage the blocking and tackling of running the HOA. And with all due respect to Grand Manners, we have a long ways to go. I worry that some of these conversations around, you know, CROA running the master plan, CROA owning the master plan, I'm really worried that we are going to get back into a position of Lucky and Celebration Hall and lawn sports where we saw some of these other priorities suffer. We have to be good at running an HOA. And if that means we work with CDB, We bring them in and we leverage their knowledge and expertise and finances. I think that's the big elephant in the room. But we have a capital fund, but this is gonna be a multi-million dollar plan. And our capital fund, even the replacement reserve, is really not designed, in my opinion, for some of these really large scale endeavors. I mean, look at 851. Right, there's drywall, there's AC, that is going to need attention. We have amenities that are needing attention. We are designed for smaller incremental fixed and enhancement, and that can be done through the partnership with Hit. It's funny for us to do, but I really worry when we start saying we are going to own this. CROA is going to build a community center. CROA is going to this, and this. It's just not attainable. It's really wild thinking. So I'm all in, and in my opinion, land, communication, resources, I would be willing to put it on the table to make that happen.
Thank you, Charles, very much. And Jared?
I definitely agree with you. But I don't feel that from it. I joined supporting. I remember hearing experience last year. That's absolutely. This year, we asked for a copy of the contract for part of the scope in. We never provided that. You yourself said that our survey was, your words were completely worthless. You said that in public.
I was there, so I know that.
Well, I don't think that's in the spirit of working together.
Don't
That's
get
my
angry.
point.
Don't get angry.
No, that's my point here. I'm expressing to you what that.
I said more than that too. So, you know.
Yes.
I didn't just say one word. That's hard to make a sense. There was a lot more. It's true, but I just wanted to say I agree. Listen, Jared, I agree
The
with
survey is completely worthless. It is not like a survey you would go ahead and send out if you really want. That was your whole statement.
But again, that was his opinion. But yeah, no, okay. But what they're saying in a public meeting though is different than a comment made that was in a personal opinion.
No, that was in a public meeting.
No, but I'm saying now in this public meeting, we're hearing from at least, I think, every member of the board at this time is saying, we want to find a way to work. So maybe it's past things.
And Jared, I mean, and I'm not asking you to go past. What I'm asking you is, I mean, I got directed comments from your prior board members last year when I tried to answer questions that were dismissive. It is, you know, and then my point to it being, 1 out of 12 of us, there are going to be friction points where you don't disagree, somebody says something they should. And I'm not saying he should or shouldn't have said it, but what I'm saying is there a desire? Is that desire?
It's not, that's one example, not getting, we were never provided this agenda until I sat down. The reason I abstained from the agenda the first time I saw it was when I sat down. This has got to be a back and forth relationship. All of their information is found with you. That's something that I think is worth discussion. I understand the contract, so I don't value that. My point is, I agree we need to work together. That's going to take side.
That's great. So pull.
But right, but I
want to pull the thread. I don't want to just abandon that. And I want to respect everybody else to make comments, but I don't want to just abandon that. I want to figure out this is what we're here for, right?
Right. But what he's saying, he's in favor of working together. And he's willing to, I'm going to speak. No, that he's willing to try to work together in hopes that we will work together.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think that's.
I do. Very much. Okay. So, Katie, how did your mic get pointed that way?
I have a question for Excite. How dynamic is this process going to be for you? And I'll give you an example why. To kind of like follow up on what Charles said, like with H51 building. Obviously, this is going to be a priority of ours to kind of address it. And I noticed you're going to be evaluating it. I don't want you to spend time on something if it's already been addressed. Because I don't feel like we can wait that long. That's just my opinion. But just in case, I want to know how dynamic the evaluation process.
Dynamic in regards to what you already done.
Like things food.
Well, as so it is an iterative process. As we gather and gain information, share that back with you all. You might say, oh, you missed this, or that's where that discussion comes in. I've heard a comment around. I think a key thing is transparent communication and smooth all parties.
But the other thing I thought I heard you say when you were looking at that slide was what they're evaluating is the program, not necessarily the
Yes,
condition of it, but it's
that's-
the programming and building.
It's, we're gonna be talking to staff, how is it used, how are the rooms used currently? Not evaluating the structure. You're probably working, but really, how is the facility currently? Is really, that's.
Question? Follow up on Jack. You said you didn't, I don't know if you're speaking on behalf of the CCD as far as building the amenities. You said you didn't want to maintain the amenities.
I didn't say that at all. That was.
Run.
Right. Okay, right.
No, I didn't. Okay. I'm sorry. I don't, we're not in the business of running facilities. Okay? We have, our biggest thing is we have the ability to get bonds, buy money, build. Okay, so I think the people that need running the things are the people that are the operators.
Okay, so I guess my question is, just because to clarify, because I think some residents have questions on that. If the CDD bond builds the amenities, that falls under CDD management company to manage. It doesn't fall under insurance.
That's correct.
Also, one of the things that's been discussed is that the CDD could build a building and then do a lease back to CROA.
There's some certain public-private issues, you can only have a certain amount of private use, but there is a way if CROA wanted to contribute a certain amount or donate some land or do something that value to allow for a long-term lease used by CROA and provides needs for offices or for some other space. So there's ways to work through it where we accommodate what CROA needs as well as the CD.
But that's a lease. It still falls under CDD.
This would be a very long-term lease.
I'm just.
The CDD has to have someone then. Yes, there's some kind of specialized man.
Right, I just wanted to.
Now, could they hire grant managers to act as the building manager?
It would depend on the contract terms of some very specific things you have to happen.
So you got
It sounds that way.
anything else? How about Celia?
I'm good.
How about Eric?
I think, so I'm in agreement on this. I just want, everyone just wants to do something. And I think there's a lot of elephants in the room that I think that we just need to bring out and parade in front of everyone. One of the ones that we're dancing around right now that no one wants to say is the reason why no one wants the CDD to run it is because it's open to all county residents. That's the assumption, okay? And I don't know if it's law.
It is, it has to be open.
Yeah, however,
Yeah, when we,
yeah,
when we have these.
I can help answer questions to that. Yes, if it's CDD owned, it's a public facility. However, everyone who lives here will be paying part of the operations and maintenance and part of the bond debt. So the residents will have access. However, you can set a rate for people outside to help cover the costs that you all are paying for your assessments. So it has to be open, but those people will have to pay an equivalent amount that you all pay for their use of the facility. So it's not gonna be walking.
Can I pull that one before? And I think this we've had this dialogue before. The practical application of that is prohibited. Dave, I know you stage out the name.
Yes, most CDDs, have non-resident user fees is what they call it. And I can't think of anywhere anyone is taking advantage of that because people don't want to pay $1,000 annually to join a facility.
But you're joining to the celebration. That's
correct. And I think the fees have to be fair.
Yes, there's a statute that governs how you set fees. There has to be a methodology to compare what people are paying, compare what the increase would be for a bond facility, compare O&M, make sure people are paying an annual fee they have to pay every year to stay a user.
Yeah.
And I say from both Angel and my experience, there's I don't think I've ever seen anyone want to pay that type of potential facility.
And I think it's that kind of conversation that we need to have, open to understand, to say, we've always heard, well, that means that everyone from the county is gonna be overrunning us, and that's the thing. And there's a flip side of this, that there's gonna be some amenities that I'm going to be in the minority here, and I'm going to say, there's times when I'm on the playground with my kids that there's someone using it that's not a member of the community. It's gonna happen. And we have to figure out, do we want to police a playground to that level? Or do we want to focus on specific amenities, such as a community building or fitness center or something like that, where it's a little bit more sensitive? And I think those are the things that shout and understand what the community is comfortable.
This is all the devil.
Exactly. And I think, to me, it's the whole county HOA relationship versus what's open for access, what's not open for access, those sort of things. They're real questions. There's passion on this side for that. So those are
And
questions.
by the way,
that
I also mentioned they had experience in that governmental component, which could help a lot.
No.
All right, well, I guess I'll start by saying thank you to the CCDA for hiring Dixite. Previous boards have failed to take any action or do anything, and you guys stepped up and are moving in that direction, take it seriously. So from the CROA side and then the Celebration homeowner, I appreciate you guys doing. Regarding metrics, right? What are we gonna try to get out of this? Yeah, the master plan, pie in the sky, all great, but what is the metric that we call success? I look at it as, if the only thing out of this process is we develop the civic corridor, then the success. That's the hurdle that I have for myself in looking at this, that we should be able to at least develop it. Now, there's a lot of things where, the CCD was talking to the county about getting the land next to the school from here so that we could do some private use or something else, that has contingencies. Stetson, that has contingencies. There's a lot of things out there that depend on a lot of other people, but for what we can control, it's the civic order, and that's my bar for whether it's a success or failure. I guess for Dick's Hike and all your partners that you're working with, I would say don't limit yourself. And what I mean by that is, with Celebration, we know that there's limited land, and it seems like every group is trying to force everything under one roof. That's not the best approach. And you know what? Maybe in this master plan, we're able to do something immediately where if we do Vice that's in somewhere down the road, that may be something for a civic group or something else. But look at Celebration as a whole, look at where things go, and then on the other side of it, with Celebration parks, the smaller ones in neighborhoods, I don't think that's something that we're comfortable as a board handing over and opening to the county. We want to keep those truly private for the homeowners. So as you go through that process, definitely look at what is a joint use area and things of that nature. But if there are things in our smaller neighborhoods in Celebration that you see have a benefit, something that pisses me off is, I'm a resident of Artisan Park, but how is it 20 years and there's no amenity in Artisan Park? Just one example. Whether it's a playground or a field or a porch or something, that's a failure on every full board prior of not getting amenity in one of our neighborhoods. So look beyond just the whole master plan of what's out there and what you can do, but also from our standpoint, what should CROA be doing for us as well, and how we have to match up.
Don, I just have one question, because there's one entity that we haven't mentioned. Well, there's two main that I'm seeing that we haven't really mentioned. I don't know if Dixite has a contact within them, but that's the Celebration Company, because they're gonna have a voice somewhere in this, as a result of, even if it's just a rubber stamp somewhere. But I don't know where they're at. LRK, okay, and then the other piece is the non-residential owners association. So, figuring out.
I would worry very little about that. This is mainly resident amenity. We're not gonna do any non-resident amenity. Yeah.
Can I ask Charlie, so when you mentioned And say, you know, as far as CROA land goes, like say like, just like say lot last year, if we were to sell that to see, would TCC have first right of?
There's nothing in the governing documents. However, I warned in this previous discussion is, Disney had a long history, habit of throwing in little restrictions on private land that aren't in main documents. We'd have to do a title search to make, I'm not aware of it. And there probably isn't. But we'd have to do a title search.
All right, I just wanna, I ran for this position, to get stuff done. We've talked and talked and talked about playground and falling apart building and master plans for decades. I started on the CROA board back in 2007. We were talking about it, man. We have to get some stuff done. Fact is, if we borrow $10 million to do some stuff, we're going to pay probably between 8 and 10% if we're lucky. By my calculations on a 20-year note, that's $90,000 a month. If CDD borrows that money at 4%, that's about $60,000 a month. Whose pocket is the 90 going to come out of? The residents of Celebration. Whose pocket is the 60 going to come out of? The residents of Celebration. So is it better for the residents of Celebration to get the amenities we want and pay $60,000 a year or a month, or $90,000 a month? It really just comes down to the fact that CDD is stepping up and saying, we can do something that CROA can't do. We can bond, but we have laws we have to follow to do so. But we want to make this work. I heard from our board, we want to make this work. So I think it behooves both of us to do everything in our power, including bringing in county, because they help to get the stuff done, make this community better than when Disney built it. And I think we can do that. This is the impact group is filled with amazing, brilliant people who have day jobs. Dick's Height can help them be better, I think. And we're not paying for Dick's Height. Wow. To me, that just seems like a no-brainer. So I just would like to encourage our board to please try to work with them and try to be as understanding and accepting as we can and listen. I think they'll do the same. I think they.
So I think that gets to the question of next steps, and understanding what we want to do. And what way I don't know if we have to.
Well, we have to wait for impact to finish.
We have to wait for impact to finish, but I don't know if they're, and Greg, I don't know if you can some stuff, but are you looking for CROA to have an action item to state that we're entering into a partnership, or need to have a photo with a handshake, and what yeah, there's a ribbon, you know, what's
let me tell you what the immediate next step is, that on Tuesday, next Tuesday, CDD has its next scheduled monthly meeting. We are going to discuss next steps with Dick's Height in their master planning process, what we need to do next as far as in their research. They'll like, okay, the next 30 days, these are the steps we need to do. It's going to cost X. And we're going to look around and say, do we want to spend X? We're going to vote on it. And then they're going to go do their work.
I would say, so I'm going to defer to Dave anytime it's the Dick's Height mechanics, because sure, and say any questions for them this way from and just 1 to 5, right? So I appreciate you asking. So nobody else wants to get. I look at, you know, the timelines for MPAC, I think August, September. Early on. Yeah, so August time for you guys are going to have a final. I don't know exactly what that looks like.
March, hold on, March.
Yeah.
When you walk up there.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. While he's doing that, I do have to leave at 8.
Yeah, I think everybody needs to leave at 8. So,
okay.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it. All that after you guys are done. After we're done, you guys can do for adjourn.
Exactly. Mark Matura, 747 up Shadows Road. I would say that every single one of us, and there's 3 of us, that are on the S1 committee,
First, that's why no point to us doing any more goal actually go to the talks. Give these guys a trouble. Literally, the next part we're about to do is some of the things create some of the same type of things. They're gonna. There is 0 point us really what we're planning. So, in our view, what we should be doing is maybe to stuff. These guys, I appreciate how much helping us in action. Get through this. So, just saying, instead of just ask a question. So anyway, there is no point else here.
So, and I was gonna say to dovetail on your question, I think immediate action items is whether support or buying into impacting process. Find out of helping with the surveys, feeding information. I don't, I hear what Mark's saying, I say it a little bit differently. I'm abandoning all. They've done 6 to 8 months worth of work. It's now taking that and transitioning that and merging into sites and helping things getting lost out of that. I think that was a catalyst going to excite so that they also get fun. My other thing I would look at is again, I appreciate Don's comment at the beginning. We're not at the point yet of to tennis court here, basketball, that's down the road. Big science, part of their job is to inform that for us.
Based on the impact.
Based on everything. As I look down the road and what they're gonna need to finally answer that question, big component of that's okay. You guys have it. Put it out. Are you willing to get into a discussion and be brought it up, whether it's a sale, whether it's or it's a playground conversation 5 years ago. So for wins, you guys need to, and I'll go ahead and throw my cards on the table. You guys, we all have the same constituency. It's what I call Tom Holden, because Tom brought this up 6 months ago. Stand up, the residents got 2 pockets. One is a CDD pocket, one is a CROA pocket. Charge me $1 million for the land, guess what's gonna happen? Add $1 billion to the bond, it's gonna get right back to the same residents that you guys want. All we're doing is making a circle. So my advisement on that, my hope on that, if we can have a discussion about if you're looking at developing the corridor as an example, getting into a discussion of land leases, what those would look like, that we could, if we're able to do a land lease, something Jan mentioned, then CDD would bond and build. What goes on top of that, we'll jointly decide based on the impact of the site, these 2 boards, what do we build on? Then go from there. I would see that would be the other sort of thing parallel because Dick's site needs to build. That's a big asset piece.
Yeah, so my question is more of an exciting question, or not a rhetorical question, is that but this would come into the planning with the master plan group, right? I mean, go ahead and figure out what is available, right? Because how could you?
That analysis is part of our process. That analysis is part of our process.
They're going to analyze what's available. My question to CROA is,
what are you willing to, because Jared has to get out of here. No, he has to get out right at 8. Everybody else. Yeah, but we would all like to get out. But looking at all like to get out. From what I heard, I'm gonna ask, do we have a consensus to move forward to discussions with CDD after we've got a plan and we know what kind of assets we're gonna, kind of facilities we're gonna need to start talking about, to negotiate?
Yes. But are you saying you would like some of that information now to
I'm
give to
saying
sites so that?
I'm saying the way they define their process, I don't think we can wait.
I agree.
I think that needs to start now, whether or not there's willing to something as a dialogue. If you guys come up and say you don't want to get into land lease, that's going to significantly change their.
I agree.
So I think we look at it as if Dick's Hike is looking at specific entities, what are you looking at to do something? And then from there, that's where it comes to the CROA board and we say negotiable,
basically right now it's
so
just
for
sending
instance,
a message.
like, Hippodrome Park, right? That's probably non-negotiable because we're not gonna put it in the council.
Right.
That's us.
Let's
But
make it the sort of the civic board right there as well.
which I think, so we're all at this table because it is negotiable. So I would say negotiable, and my original thought on this is, instead of doing a land lease, we would sell you the land for say $5 or $10 million so that Dick's Hike can show us what we can do on our other private neighborhoods and use that money to build that area.
And then how-
Rather than getting our own funding, throw stuff out there. So again, I'm getting a little head on that.
I agree
but
with Andrew.
Conversations there of, we sell the land there to then facilitate
I don't
funds.
think we need
So
to
they,
decide what we want. I'd be willing to, if you wanna have Don and I do this, if you wanna do it as two boards open session, Don and I can bring it back to you. I don't really care about it. Try to find a way to facilitate it so that we can line out just 3 or 4 different options of how they play, and then present those reports and see what's out.
Lady next thing,
I'm
sense of the board.
to me,
Not
there's,
long speech, Mike. sense of the
yeah,
board.
there's nothing off the table for me as long as we understand the.
And this isn't a legal binding agreement, this
No,
is
no,
just
consensus.
to talk.
Yeah,
To talk what's possible.
That's what I really wanted to get out of this meeting, was consensus. Are we willing to work with you guys to try to find a way to make these things happen?
I think the biggest thing that we need to do, and I think, Jen, you hit on this by helping us, and we need to work on the communication side, which is where I'm gonna lean on Lauren and everything with that, is we need to get ahead of the community on the communication side of what happens if CROA were to give something, or lease something, or sell tickets, or whatever, or sell it, whatever, to the CDD. Like, what are the real implications of that? And how has that been managed in other situations?
So what Greg's idea is that the two of us can discuss some things in conjunction with our attorneys and bring ideas back to our board.
Yeah.
Would that be
I think
amenable?
it should be Dave on our side.
Oh, Dave.
Running point at the biggest heights.
Yes,
That
so.
would be fine, with anybody, just because these meetings take forever. And if we can come up with some things and what they're willing to do, we're willing to do, and I can take what you guys think should be done, like the 10 or whatever those numbers are, back to them, we'll discuss all the possibilities, we'll bring back a list and say, here's some of the things we can do, let's vote on. Or let's discuss it and work.
Chris?
I was just going to mention, so we're looking at, at all the land holdings trees as a park master plan first. We're gonna bring forward thoughts and ideas into the vision workshop. You all are gonna be a part of that vision workshop process. As ideas are developed, then we get into mechanics of negotiating.
And that's after.
Towards the end of the vision workshop, as we're making considerations, this information will be very important. HRNA advisors, frankly, understanding some of these mechanics, and then working, thinking about and working through the implementation. Now we have the word implementation kind of at the end of the master plan. We got to figure out mechanics and next steps. However, we need to have a lens of looking at these holistically first.
With that holistic piece, though, may I ask Dick's Heights level of involvement with Island Village? I know Island Village is listed up there as a customer. I don't know how much you can divulge or whatever between the two, but there's 2 more phases out there.
We want to understand Island Village.
Yeah. And I think
I think it's a,
our challenge.
I'll give you any information you want on an island.
we want to completely understand Island Village. We want to understand the master plan. We want to understand, the design for open spaces and parks there and ultimate population. And then how it weighs in. I think that's critical.
See, Jim's part of your technical advisory group and can answer those questions. And just to give you an indication of how things might progress, which is if you kind of look at the timeline and broke it down, for the next 3 months, more or less, they're going to be engaged in research. All right, they're digging through everything, irrespective of what parcels or ownership or anything is out there. Right, that gives us some time to kind of figure things out. But at some point in the process, step 8, step 9, or whatever, they're going to say, here's our laundry list, our wonderful list of all the things that we need to do. So what's the palette? What's the opportunities here? Where can we put stuff? That's when we're going to be able to tell them, all right, these are the parcels that are available, and this is what can go with it. And then we go through that process.
Yeah, we know those 2 already as part of,
What 2?
We
They
also
know.
are aware of the opportunity parcels that have been identified. Yeah, just.
But I think to the point though, question of timing, I would much rather do that sooner rather than later. If CROA comes back and looks at whatever the 4 options that they find, CROA comes back and says, hell no, we're not doing that. That's gonna significantly inform the rest of the process. I don't know that I wanna wait until step 9. All of a sudden, okay, guys, let's go get the roof.
But that makes
It's out in
sense.
10 days. I would much rather start that now.
And be more specific. I mean, really, it's not anything, we're not gonna give lakeside,
No,
No.
it's civic.
But listen, they're gonna identify a community center as necessary, regardless of whether the civic corridor is a possibility or not. They're just saying you need a community center. Now, what's available? Is the civic corridor a play or not? That's when they,
We have.
right.
Make it a deal on the building, it needs a little work.
Kick the tires.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Can I ask a question on that? For lot B and D, is that considered developed land or undeveloped land? So if we were to sell lot B and D to that require a, vote?
It's common areas, so yes, we have to.
Okay, so my thought also in the front end, if it's one, you're, like saying as far as negotiating and talking about this, I feel like if we're talking about lot B and D, and this is, how about we should vote on.
I think we need to get some of the questions answered, because everyone's going to assume that if we do that, if we sell it to the CDB, everyone's gonna think that we're gonna. It's just.
yeah, we need a plan for the vote.
So because if you do a land release, you don't require the vote. I'm not saying you shouldn't do
Right,
it.
but it's what needs to happen.
wait a minute, remember, you're then double charging the residents.
Not necessarily because.
Use it on the paper.
Yeah, right, exactly. You can come up with
All it is.
At 5%, you can get the money at 5% versus, like you said earlier, us getting the money at 10%. And then we use that money to fund something maybe like repairing this.
Understood, but remember, for every dollar you take away from a land sale, you're taking away the ability, correct, but you're also limiting the amount of amenities you're actually adding. So if you were gonna add $20 million worth of amenities, and you're focused on maybe, let's say, a $20 million bond based on how much it would cost each household, you now are only able to go in and provide $10 million of amenities, because the other $10 million is given cash pro. So it's just something that.
Here's what we're doing now, and this is my biggest concern, is we're starting to get into detail.
That's right. That's why you're here, Don.
We can discuss details later. This was mainly a get to know ya meeting and to get a sense of the board. You guys said you want to work with us. We said we want to work with you. I say you call for adjournment because it's on the.
Well, I want to get a formal vote of our board discussing, soon, that I make a motion to see if it's changes with on.
I second that.
Just got a second, say about. Favor?
Aye. All right.
Vote to adjourn the seat.
So moved, second.
Yeah, we all moved in second.
All right, what about us?
I have some more discussion on the pro side.
Great.
Thank you all.
Yes.